And a lot of people will say, this place has the best burger. They won't say, this place is my favorite burger. They'll say, this is the best one. But then it's like, how do you know? You're from Naperville and you've had 3 burgers in Chicago.
I Am Consciously Curious, a podcast for those that are searching for meaning and fulfillment in their lives. My name is Victor Chan, and I'm on a mission to find out why people do what they do. I've interviewed white-collar to blue-collar, entrepreneurs to passion projects, and life is just too short to not produce meaningful work. Thanks for tuning in. And that's going. We're live. Mr. Mitch Gropman, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
And now we're co-hosted by Justin Doggett of
hey,
Kyoto Black.
Let's go.
Before you guys arrived, I made a quick Instagram little story. I didn't post it yet, of what we're doing today and why Justin is co-hosting and how when this podcast started 6 years ago, Justin was one of my first guests, and we hosted it at Edge of Sweetness in Edgewater. And Justin shared that one of the things that he first started in the business was to advertise on Reddit. And so when I mentioned that, I'm speaking to Mitch Gropman, who's one of the moderators of Chicago Food subreddit, kind of lit up. And I was like, yeah, please, if you want to co-host, and this is an open invitation to anyone that wants to help me co-host. If you feel like you have this curiosity, this inclination, maybe this verbiage, this vernacular that I might not have, please help me co-host. And so all to say, Mitch, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Where do you want to start? Because you've been hosting. He's been hosting buyouts.
You mentioned that to me.
There's this community fund through Reddit that gives you the opportunity to buy out a restaurant. Restaurants that sometimes are unattainable to some, like Kyōten. Cariño is next. Akahoshi, Cellar Door Provisions.
Oh, nice.
Right? Was Obelix again this year as well? Or
No,
that was last year?
Yeah, it was just last year.
Yeah.
The other 2 this year are Bloom and Jong.
Yeah.
Oh, John, nice.
Yeah. I mean, Justin, how do you operate with Reddit? For me, Reddit is a source of information, a source that other social media platforms don't have. And part of me likes the lack of visual kind of vanity to it.
Yeah.
Right? Like people typically go in depth into topics. And so when you're looking for maybe underrated places to eat or what people deem to be good eats, Reddit is one of my go-tos. Would that be the same for you guys?
Yeah, same here. Yeah, it's like where I go to get a feel for just the temperature, especially the Chicago Food subreddit. I feel like it's very active, and there's like a lot of passionate people.
Yeah. And
it seems like there's this desire to put people onto what's really happening.
Yeah.
And it's local. It's like, it's isolated within Chicago.
Yeah.
So it's a just high quality source
and it wasn't always like that. So Mitch, like when I'm interested to hear what your first experiences were with Reddit, but when you joined the Chicago Food Reddit page, it wasn't always like that.
Yeah, so I made a Reddit account my sophomore year of high school.
Okay.
After this kid in my French class who was just always experimenting with drugs was like, hey dude, I know everything in the world because I found this website called Reddit.
Really?
Yeah, like that's literally the phrasing he used. And so when I joined Reddit after his glowing endorsement, it was a completely different website. I also did not live in Chicago at that time.
Okay.
I lived in Florida where I grew up. So it was, totally different. I never even thought about, doing anything with food when I was on there. I think when I started, it was mostly for like sports.
Sure.
And then when I went to college in Jacksonville, Florida, which does not have a food subreddit, but I was just super into food in Jacksonville. So I made this like foodie guide to Jacksonville, and I just talked about a bunch of restaurants. Like, if you want this kind of restaurant, go here. If you want, and then people loved it, and that was the top post in the Jacksonville subreddit for like at the time. This is probably like 2015. And then I moved to Chicago in 2018, and I instantly was just enamored by the food scene because I had never lived in a place with really good food. And so I was just trying to consume every piece of media that I could about the food scene. And I was like on one hand, I was like so excited to just be in this world where I could try all these restaurants. And on the other hand, I was pretty underwhelmed with what was available. So when I moved here, the Chicago Food subreddit was a very small community. It had just a couple thousand subscribers, and it hadn't been moderated since 2011 or 12. So it was pretty much just the Wild West. You know, anyone could post whatever they wanted. But I still, there wasn't really an alternative to the Chicago Food subreddit either. And that's just, I used Reddit all the time. So I figured this is where I'm going to share what I think about food. The first thing I posted, I went to this restaurant in Andersonville, which has since closed, called Gadabout. And I wrote this in-depth review of it. I really enjoyed the meal there. And the people really liked that someone actually like put effort in a post, which was very unusual at the time. And then eventually I went on this kick where I ate a bunch of fried chicken sandwiches throughout the city. And then I ate like 37 of them. And then I made a post about it, ranking my top 10. And then that blew up. That became the biggest post on the subreddit.
Was that like pre-Popeyes sandwich?
You had
there was like that fried chicken wave. Like I remember.
No, I think it was right around that time, if not a little after.
Okay.
But I didn't rank any chains. So
I hear you.
Did only Chicago.
That just became like the culture was like. I remember when I first had the Popeyes chicken sandwich. I was like, "Yo, Vic, like stop everything."
You got
and it just became like this cultural thing. Like maybe like 2 months or something after I mentioned it to you.
Did it pop off because it was people related to it, or was it controversial?
It wasn't controversial. No, people I think just liked the effort and like the fact that some crazy guy ate a bunch of a thing.
Yeah.
And so everyone at that point just called me the chicken sandwich guy. Okay. And like even to this day, I'm trying to shake it off. But people like went crazy about it. People like kept asking me questions about chicken sandwiches. I got like 100 recommendations for different chicken sandwiches I hadn't even tried yet or heard of. Wow. So then I posted another list a few months later after I had 50 chicken sandwiches. And then I posted one after 100. And then I posted one after, I think the last one I did was 125. And then my doctor said my cholesterol was too high.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Yeah, so I'm retired from the chicken sandwich game. But in between the first and the second chicken sandwich list, I logged on one day, and the top 3 posts on the sub, and there were still like fewer than 10,000 subscribers at the time, so still small. Top post was an advertisement for some Mexican food chain. Second one was also an advertisement, and the third one was someone posting an advertisement for her OnlyFans. Like, why not? And I remember like logging on it that day. I'm like, who is running this community? Yeah. And I saw that like there were moderators, but there hadn't been any actual moderation action done in 10 years. So anyone can just post whatever they want. It wasn't really very like there was no sense of community at that time.
Yeah.
So Reddit has a way that if a community is unmoderated, in the sense that like even if there are moderators, if they're not doing anything, you can request it. So I had to appeal to Reddit, write this. Did
you try going to the original moderators first?
Yes.
Oh. Yeah. And they were unresponsive, or?
Half of them did not like they hadn't posted anything on their account in years, and then there was one guy who was active, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't care." Okay. Yeah, he's like, "You can have it." And then I had to ask Reddit for it. Oh, wow. And then they said yes. And then people were rallying around me because people liked the chicken sandwich guy, which I'm like, okay, if that's what I can do to make this some cool thing,
I'll own it if I have to.
Yeah. And then from there, that week, I added on the rest of the mod team. And then it just kind of exploded in a way that I really never expected. I mean, like we hit 50,000 subscribers in 2023.
Yeah.
And then now we're at like almost 130,000. So the growth has been like logarithmic, which is crazy. Wow. Yeah.
So how many moderators do you have right now?
We have 5.
5? Okay. That's pretty good. Yeah.
And are these people that are elected, or people that you kind of know, or people that have contributed to the subreddit?
So the first wave of them, all of them except for one, I guess, were just people where I said, hey, I need moderators. Who wants to help me out with this? And so they just volunteered. And then there was a point last year where we felt like, okay, it was getting pretty big. We could probably add one more. And then we found a very lovely woman who used to be like a food writer, who's like very into everything. She's been great.
Okay. At what point did you start seeing kind of opportunities arise or unfold for you through this vessel?
I never thought it would be anything.
Right.
And then after I think my second chicken sandwich list, there was a guy who reached out to me saying like, hey, we'd love for you to come in. We know our sandwich isn't on your list and we know you've tried it. Like, please like eat it and tell us what we could be doing better. And so I did like this, I won't say what the restaurant was, but I did this extensive chicken sandwich tasting, and everyone at the it was like a big chicken place in Chicago, and they were all, like observing me like some lab monkey eating their chicken sandwiches. Yeah. And I was like, that was kind of an interesting experience. And then like more of those types of experiences happened where people were reaching out to me because they wanted to talk to me about something.
They value your opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I also had a bunch of experiences where restaurants became, either they were trying to, covertly advertise, like pretending that they were a customer reviewing their own food. And like one of the big things for us is fighting, it's called astroturfing when you advertise like that. So one thing I'm very proud of for our subreddit is that it's a place that is as free of that as you could reasonably expect to be. I'm not going to claim that we catch everything, but we really put a lot of effort into the reviews, and the opinions are actually from guests and not like totally free from advertising. I've gotten a lot of offers from restaurants like, hey, we'll pay you X amount of money to say that our food was good, or just to share a picture of our.
And I wonder what it took for that restaurant, because I'm sure that doesn't feel good to have to ask, but they're in a position to where they could use the help.
I mean, it's such a competitive environment and everything's expensive, and you look for whatever edge you can get. Man. So it probably comes up just brainstorming like, hey, where can we get a good bang for our buck in terms of advertising? And
in the food world, it's really not unusual. Like most food influencers and even a lot of the publications, you can just pay them, any of them, to say anything you want is delicious.
That's wild.
Yeah, but that's how it is. Like almost all of them, they're making some crazy money, just pumping whatever people are paying them to pump.
Despite how you truly feel.
Yeah,
that's wild.
No, it's just the industry. It's its own like kind of industrial complex.
So I mean, you don't see yourself as an influencer, despite having some influence.
No, because I can't be bought.
Yeah.
I'll never say something is good that I don't think is good.
At what point did you observe that the subreddit took a life of its own? When others started contributing and it was no longer ads and OnlyFans and people started contributing and giving their opinions?
I think pretty quickly after we cleaned it up.
Nice.
So the first thing we did was we went through 10 years of moderation queue and just cleaned it out.
Wow.
It took a couple hours to do that. Then we actually made rules that people had to abide by. And then I think we doubled in size in the first 7 or 8 months after that. And then since then, it's just been getting bigger and bigger. I think after we announced our first community fund event last year, I think a lot of people took that as an invitation, like, oh, this is something I really should be
paying attention to
and participating in, because there could be some kind of reward.
Incentive,
yeah. And then after that, it's really grown exponentially since then.
Yeah. Mitch also hosts, and I want to get to those buyouts that started last year, right, with Obelix?
Yeah, that was the first one.
Before then, he hosts a supper club, a dining club.
Yeah.
For individuals that might want to go to these fine dining establishments, but might not have friends or family that want to go with them.
Oh, that's cool.
Or don't have the means to go with them. And so within this club, it's around 130 members at this point. Is there a wait list to get on this?
So that's actually something we're figuring out right now, how to do it. Because currently the only way to get in is you have to hopefully be online for a 30-minute period twice a year that I'll post that we're accepting applications.
Oh.
Because otherwise there would just be 1,000 members, and it's just too much to manage for free.
What's stopping these individuals from just spawning off and just like they meet like-minded individuals through this club and be like, do we need this club anymore?
Well, I mean, in my club there's definitely like cliques that have formed.
Sure.
So there's like a group chat, maybe like 10 of them will be in, where they'll be like, hey, who wants to go here?
Yeah.
And I can't stop anyone from doing that. Even like we had a group from our club take a trip to New Orleans just to eat, which I think is super cool.
That's cool that even spawned off.
Just like that's what I mean. It takes a life of its own. And I guess, is there anything like I think you're just trying to provide opportunity, right? And
so the genesis for the club was I would just notice all the time someone would post some expensive restaurant review on the subreddit, and then like almost every time there'd be a comment saying, oh, I'd love to eat here, but I don't know anyone that would spend $200-300 on a meal.
Yeah.
And so my idea was just, well, what if we just got all those people together, and then they can dine with like-minded people, make friends as an adult, which is quite difficult, and 100%. Just meet new people, have new fulfilling experiences with people that are really into food.
Because I mean, to get a table, it's like 2 to 4 people. I mean, like I wonder if there's a way for you to create a list where people can meet other people. Like where like they don't have to be part of this dining club, but they can find other they're just finding other individuals. Yeah,
I mean. So like for like my club in particular, I try my best to make sure that when people are going out to these experiences, there's a set of rules and expectations, and that way to ensure that people are not going to have a bad time, like make sure it's safe for everyone. So there's like a set of guidelines that we have, and so I don't want to be a part of things that stray away from that, because to me the risk is too high. When you're talking about, meeting up with strangers. Oh yeah. Well, it's completely out of your hands if people choose to venture off with other people. Yeah. And if people want to do their own thing, I can't stop them, of course. Yeah. But in terms of, what I want to be a part of, I feel much more comfortable doing it in the more organized way that I've done it, so I can feel like that people can feel safe and comfortable when they go out with these people. But you don't go to all of these events either, right? No, I mean, there's more. Like last month, I think we had 45 events. 45, and so you're structuring these events and you're planning these events? No. So anyone in the club can just say, hey, I want to eat at That's this what I mean. Restaurant. Okay, so it's self-organized. Yeah. So I only go to maybe 2 or 3 events a month. So if it's self-organized, why is it limited to 130 people? Because there's still a lot of moderation that has to go into it, Like what? Like what do you mean? I know you touched on that safety aspect, but... so like, if like we've had... Luckily, we haven't had anything too bad, but it's fairly common where, someone might not be very agreeable, and, they'll go out and maybe they'll say something rude, or they'll talk over people, or we had an incident once where the guy said he would pay for it, and then everyone would Venmo him or whatever, which is, that's normal. Okay. But he tipped like 10%. And then everyone else was like, they had to wait for him to leave and go back and tip more, and then they had to reach out to me, because we don't have like a strict tipping rule. But if you tip like an asshole, then that's crazy. Like that's not cool either. So those are the types of things we have to deal with. So if there's 130 people, if I make it 1,000 people, I can imagine that the workload of dealing with these types of things would go up 10x. I don't remember which CEO. There's like some big time CEO, but hearing him talk about this process kind of reminds me of something I heard, which is hire slow and fire fast. Yeah, and it seems like that's kind of the approach you're taking, where it's like hire slow, build this community up slowly, and just kind of bring people in, because all it takes is like one person to ruin the entire vibe. And if you bring in enough of those people at once, you can just like take this great thing and just it kind of falls apart and factionalizes even more so. But instead of being like, oh, we just have our little clique, it's actual factions now, kind of like really against each other. So when it's open twice a year, is it because people are leaving, or because you have the capacity to just keep growing? It's I kick people who are inactive. Oh, yeah. Okay. So is there a membership? There's no fee. There's no fee? No. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I don't want people that are not participating in the group. How many people do you find are inactive? Usually so we call it the purge. Usually when I do a purge, it's like 20 or 30 people.
Out of 130?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's kind of interesting that that's like right around Dunbar's number, where it's like if you've heard of that number before, it's like the number of people you can like kind of meaningfully know in life.
Oh, yeah.
Is like 150.
Oh, really?
People, like on a way where you can say, oh yeah, I know that person, and you actually know them. You know,
Yeah.
It's not just by name.
Okay.
So it's kind of interesting that you kind of like found that level of.
Well,
okay.
it's still interesting that there's that many people that stay in it despite no skin in the game, no buy-in,
Yeah.
right? No membership dues.
Well,
Right.
I think the buy-in is the connection.
Yeah, yeah,
Sure. You know,
but there's
it's
an
like, yeah,
intrinsic
just-
motivation to
yeah.
continue to participate in this group.
Yeah. I mean, I've thought about like, even if there was like a $2 a month membership kind of thing, just so that people be more motivated who are actually in it to participate. But I don't want to involve money. I just feel like it'll change it in some way that maybe I don't want
Taint
it to.
the purity.
Yeah. Like I've never made any money from any of this stuff. So just for like personal reasons, I think like it could affect me mentally, like the way I think about it, if I start seeing it as an income source, which is not the point of it at all for me.
Not to mention too, a lot of people think that they can buy poor behavior, or at least your tolerance of their poor behavior.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you hear, there's like all these different anecdotes about like a daycare that started imposing a late fee on parents for coming to pick their kids up, 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes late to pick up your kid from daycare, right?
But they'll pay the fee.
And then once they instituted the fee, instead of noticing people drop off, they're like, well, I'm just going to pay you the fee now. And it's like, now they put the onus on you to shut up because you just take the fee. It's like, hey, I'm giving you my money. And like my money buys your silence, basically. And it's like,
I mean, raise your rates if that's what,
I mean, I guess, and then that just becomes a new service where it's like before you know it, because it's
whatever
too.
you're happy with. Right?
It's what you're looking for out of it, I think, because definitely there is an argument saying, hey, well, if that's the case, my silence now costs $80 for half an hour. And it's like, that might be worth it. But for a dining club, maybe it's like, do I want to bring all these people together who potentially might be the highest quality, most qualified people for this particular type of thing because they all coalesced around it, and then allow that to kind of fall apart because there's some sort of not to say like money ruins everything, but there's this sort of like tainting of it or this loss of vision. And now that one like little locus of people that I had together, which was the highest quality people, has been like completely broken apart, and it's going to be harder to get back that same level of quality. So
speaking of income, this feels like a job similar to podcasting. I don't make any money from it. You don't make any money from it. What do you? What's your job then? What do you do?
Yeah, so I do contract negotiation for a med tech company, and I work fully remotely. And
what does that mean? Is that as an attorney or is it?
It's a legal job, but I don't work as an attorney. It's
Okay.
just I argue with lawyers about what the terms should be of a contract. Yeah,
That sounds important. Is it important?
I mean, I don't know, maybe. But
At this point in your life, do you feel like you live to work or work to live?
I definitely work to live, and I feel very grateful that I have a job that lets me do all the other fun stuff in my life. I have tons of hobbies.
How lucky. That's
No,
amazing.
I'm very grateful for it. Yeah, it's a really sweet gig.
So speaking of hobbies, I just thought you both are collectors, different collecting different things, but collectors.
yeah, I mean, I collect a lot of different things, mostly children these days. I got two.
But coins and then cards, right?
Well,
Hockey
I collect
cards?
cards too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're hockey
Cards, yeah.
collector, yeah.
Cool.
Actually, this week I bought my first Pokemon card as an adult.
Oh, that's cool.
All
So
right.
what kind of card did you buy?
I bought a first edition Neo Lugia.
Okay. Oh, cool. That's that's pretty.
That was
is it-
probably the generation before I started dropping off. Like I don't know any other newer
That's the last generation
Yeah,
I
that's
was
what
on.
I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 28.
Okay, cool.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Oh, well, okay. So I'm a full generation older than I'm 37. So
Okay.
27,
Yeah,
yeah.
I bought that one in particular because I have a memory as a small child of being in a Toys R Us buying a pack of it, and I pulled that card.
Oh, nice.
And I screamed at the kid next to me, like, "I got Lugia!" Like I was just screaming at him. I don't know why. Like I'm not a yeller at all.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like I just have this memory of me screaming at this kid. like just so out of my mind that I got it, and then I got grounded, but I got to keep the card. I don't know where that one is, but I felt like I have to replace this.
Yeah, no, Lugia is definitely a grail piece, like, so that's cool. Is it graded or?
It's a PSA 6.
6, okay, cool.
But it looks good.
It looks clean,
Yeah.
like nice edges and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
Damn. That's cool. That's cool. So with Reddit, coming back to Reddit, when did you become aware of the community fund?
Yeah, so Reddit has a thing called the Reddit Mod Roadshow, where they go around to different cities and invite moderators of their communities in those cities to just drink and eat and talk to people. So I went to one, I guess it would have been 2023, and I didn't realize this, but I guess amongst like the executives of Reddit, the growth of Chicago food after it being taken over was seen as like this big success story, like at their headquarters in like San Francisco. And there were like really like high up people at Reddit who were like, oh my God, let's go Chicago food guy. And one of them was, I think she's called like head of community. I think her name's Laura. And she was like so excited to talk to me. And she's like, we have this big endowment called community funds for people to like do community stuff in their event. Like, what if we did some kind of like public event? Because I guess at that time it was mostly like r/Fortnite would give everyone a battle pass kind of thing. Those are the kinds of things they were using the money for. So they hadn't really done anything like what I wanted to do, which was just bring a bunch of people to these great restaurants that maybe they couldn't afford it, or maybe they could, but just to give them some cool, like fulfilling community experience where we could actually like meet face to face and remind everyone that these people on Reddit are actually like real people in your city. Wow. I picked Obelix for that one as like a big buyout, and we had 150 people eat there for free.
In one night?
Yeah, so we had 3 turns of 50 people. Wow. Yeah.
Do people wear like name tags with their handle?
Yeah.
Nope. You just sat down and introduced yourself.
Did you feel like some type of responsibility to curate questions, or is that too much work and you just let the people do it in their own, like just you know?
You mean like at the event?
Yeah.
No. Everyone just sat down and ate cool food. And
at that time, what were the prereqs, or like in that form that they had to fill out? Like, what did you ask of people in order to gain a seat at this dinner?
Yeah, so I did it in a very stupid way where all you had to do, I think you had to be a member of the community. Your account had to be 6 months old or something like that. You couldn't have any moderation, like warning, like suspensions or bans or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then you just apply. And then I went through every single profile that applied. And then I tried to like see their contribution on the subreddit and then rank it and then give the top 150 the invites.
How are you ranking this? Is it like just number of posts, or is it how deep their posts are?
Yeah, just like how much they're commenting, the quality of their comments. If someone like if I went through your profile and I thought you were a dick, I just wouldn't give you an invite.
Yeah.
So how would you do it differently?
Well, I did it differently this time by delegating it to 2 other mods.
Okay. Was that the only like stupid part? Is that you did it yourself, or like what was?
No, but there was a form. Like, did you ask different things on the form?
Yeah, but it's literally. I think the only difference that we did this year to make it a little easier was please link like your 5 best like contributions to the subreddit.
Oh,
that makes
nice.
sense.
It's kind of like a resume.
Yeah. Just so we didn't have to like do what I did.
work,
Yeah, just like scroll through your
100%
profile and just like a really stupid amount of work.
That, yeah.
And so far you've gone through more than half of the buyouts. Did it pay off? Did the pivoting pay off and all that work pay off?
Yeah, I mean, being in these amazing restaurants and them being full and everyone being so happy to be there and just having an amazing experience because you took on the work and put it together. It's really a rewarding, fulfilling experience for me.
Yeah.
And even still, as far as I know, nobody else is doing anything like this. No other community really. So there's no playbook. I'm just kind of doing what I think is cool.
That's amazing.
You ever end up with any like surprisingly young guess or surprising, like, you know, because you have some kids who are on Reddit who might be like 13 and they're like super contributing and very, I mean, like sophisticated in their taste, and they show up and you're like, what are you doing here?
Meeting people, like I said earlier, like Reddit isn't the place for profile pictures and things like that.
Right, yeah,
and,
so you don't know who you're talking to necessarily.
You don't really have a face to apply to someone's profile, you know, usually. And so what was that like, even from Obelix to this year? It's like meeting some of these individuals. And it's like, I'm sure your mind is blown every time, like when you're like, you're the chicken man, you're the chicken, you know, it's like, how do you, like, really? People have like actually gone through my profile and like went that deep to find out who this person is.
Yeah. I would, so you have to be 21 to go to the events, because they serve alcohol and they're not going to ID everyone. Okay. So you do have to be 21. I would say, obviously not asking everyone who goes how old they are, but probably the oldest would probably be 70, if I had to guess. But it's really a very diverse group that ends up going to these events. I think people, they think of Reddit, they have an image of their mind of just a bunch of people that look like comic book guy from The Simpsons. But at these events, you're going to see very little of that. I think people might be surprised to hear that the events actually lean more women than men.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is surprising, actually. Yeah. Wow.
Huh. That makes a little sense to me, honestly. Like, I feel like the food space is like kind of heavily female.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Maybe.
But what about the Reddit space?
Yeah, the Reddit space might be more heavily male, though. I think.
Yeah, I think Reddit does lean pretty. I don't know what the number is, but I'm sure it's, I don't know, 60-40.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Female, male.
Male, female.
Male, female.
Yeah, but it's a male heavy space.
But it's probably 55-45 female for the subreddit.
Okay.
I think what doesn't surprise me, because I don't know exactly what the subreddit composition is, but it doesn't surprise me that the people who actually show up, you know, to the events are predominantly female. I'm a part of a cooperative, like, parenting kind of situation with my kids, and like when it comes to the organizational stuff, and when it comes to like actually showing up and doing stuff, there's so many women just doing like so many things. Even though, like, you know, these are a lot of 2-parent households. The men are volunteering, the men are contributing, but you know,
in different ways.
Yeah, in different ways. I see just the women just showing up and just doing so much work and just like doing the actual social connecting. You know, it being a social event, I think that kind of you know.
and that tracks also through my dining club. Also leans
female,
more women than men. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there something that you've learned from like hosting all these dinner experiences, as far as trying to optimize an ideal experience, like curating an ideal experience?
I think for me, you know, I'm someone who just enjoys talking to so many people and like going into every conversation with the presumption that this person has something interesting to offer, and I want to hear what their perspective is and what their view is on life, and being interested in that. I think a lot of people don't do that. They just assume everyone's boring, or you probably like, oh, I know what they think about this or that. And then all the time I'm surprised in a very pleasant way. So I think, you know, creating environments where people can share their perspectives, and then also have a focused perspective when it comes to food. Like for me, so I like almost everyone I meet, I always ask them what their favorite restaurants are, and I've found so many amazing restaurants that way. So it's just a great way for me to collectively, you know, figure out what the best restaurants in the city are. Like we have a trip report channel in our dining club Discord. So every day I get new like private food reviews of like what people thought, and it's a really good way to, you know, hear about what's good and what's not.
Yeah, you've created this positive feedback loop. That's amazing. Do you feel like other people that go to these dinner experiences share the same sentiment of this natural curiosity?
Some of them do. Yeah, not all of them. I mean, it's really like quite a diverse group. Everyone's very different, which I think makes it really cool.
I guess maybe I'm just putting myself in a hole when I'm having too high of an expectation for someone. Like I want someone to have a great time, right? And it's like, how do I feel like I bear that responsibility if I'm the host to have as much in my control to set them up for success. But there is a certain point where they have to have that kind of vulnerability and that curiosity to carry that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, if you pick good restaurants, the restaurant's going to do a lot of the work for you.
They'll do a lot of the heavy lifting. And it's like, you kind of have to know what the person wants before you know, like if you try to give someone a lot of what they aren't asking for, then that can be kind of like, oh, I didn't really come for this, you know. So it's like more of a laissez-faire kind of approach to it. I think it's pretty cool because you have like these different archetypes of people who have their own motivations for why they go to fine dining. I used to work in fine dining, so like I would run into these different characters and stuff. You know, you have your person who's like the flexer, where it's like, I used to work at Next, and there was a guy for one of our menus who literally showed up every single week. This was back when it was kind of like difficult to get into Next, like 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
And he showed up every week with a new person.
Oh,
just
like,
to bring to the
like
same menu.
The menu.
Yeah, the same menu.
Yeah.
And he would be flying out from like LA. And and
Really?
it got to the point where people were like, okay, he's back, you know.
Oh, no.
And he would like introduce us as if like he really knew us, but he kind of did because he was there all the time. And that was just like what he did. And you would never make that assumption about someone unless you kind of knew that that's their shtick in the first place, you know. So I had a laugh about it, but you know.
Yeah, I have a friend who goes to Jong all the time on first dates.
Yeah,
and so
that's hilarious.
I guess they like every time he goes in, they pretend like they don't know.
How many first dates is this person getting?
I don't know anyone that dates as much as this guy.
That's hilarious. Oh, also too, I'm gonna give you this.
Oh yeah. Justin brought some.
I brought some coffee.
Some coffee, and it's usually not bottled, or is this?
So I just threw this in bottles, just like
so
made
nice
it to
of you.
like easy to drink, just drinking strength.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to preface this, I spoke to a little to Mitch beforehand, and he's not a coffee drinker. He doesn't like the flavor of coffee, which is quite funny because this doesn't taste like coffee.
Damn.
So yeah, I brought some of that limited, if you know, you know.
And how similar is it to the last batch of limited?
So I feel like the last limited I brought you was the exact same bean. It just like came full circle because this is the nitro Caturra. So they take the Caturra and they put it in a nitrogen environment for the fermentation, and it brings out this crazy pineapple candy, like watermelon, Jolly Rancher kind of note going. So
okay.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Yeah, I've been sipping on that like quite a bit. So cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.
Yeah, if you don't like it, yeah, obviously, coffee.
Yeah,
right?
it's like the one flavor I can't stomach usually. Let's see.
It's the watermelon husk.
So to me, it definitely tastes like there's coffee in there.
Yeah.
But I'm not like offended by it.
Okay, it's like very subtle, kind of.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice. Very similar to your last one.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it quite a bit right now. So just figuring out what I want to put on my limited edition releases for this time around, and this one's pretty high.
Is Drip getting this?
They may. Yeah, I got to talk to Ty because he's like, Ty. Like anytime I'm like, oh, there's some crazy fruit flavors going. Yeah, you got any more of that co-ferment?
So how have the buyouts this year been going?
They've been really smooth, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we
The first one was Kyōten.
Kyōten, yes.
And Kyōten, like the main Kyōten.
Main Kyōten.
Because I love Next Door too, and I think you said it beautifully on the Hunger podcast. But have you been to Next Door?
No.
Have you been? You haven't.
I haven't been.
Do you know Chef Otto at all?
I don't.
Okay. So Kyōten Next Door is probably to me the the pinnacle of all the other omakase experiences in the city, and I feel like they blew up over the last couple of years. But if someone were to want to try an omakase experience, to me, Next Door would be my go-to. Mm-hmm. It has your traditional range of bites, but they just take it to the next level, from like the size to the rice. Like everything is just like elevated at Next Door.
Yeah, and they recently started using the same rice as Kyōten.
Nice. Whereas, like, how would you describe Kyōten? Like smaller bites, like odd fish here and there, sometimes not fish.
So people, like a lot of people ask me. So I'm one of the lists I made on Reddit. I think last year was I tried all the omakases, and I put Kyōten as number one, but I kind of put this disclaimer as, if you've never had omakase sushi before, probably don't go to Kyōten for your first one because you're not going to appreciate it. Like someone who's never had wine trying $1,000 wine isn't going to know it any different from an $8 wine. But if you've been to a bunch of omakases and then you go to Kyōten, you can see those little differences in quality, all wild fish, really high quality rice, really high end ingredients. You can really appreciate those. And at that point, you can really feel like it was worth it. I remember because I was kind of putting off going to Kyōten when I was doing the list because it was so expensive.
Yeah.
And I remember when I made the reservation, I just thought like, okay, I just hope I don't feel like I like just wasted $500. But I left there feeling like, oh my God, how can I scrap up enough money to go back here? Because it was that good.
Yeah.
And I've had, you know, some of the top omakases in the country or even in North America. And I feel like Kyōten is right up there with like the top spots in New York or like Saito in Toronto.
It's wild. Like last time I saw Chef Otto, like I told him like I feel like he's just playing around now. Like he's just messing around in his shop.
Yeah.
And his team is doing, you know, Jose, Jorge, Mugi, like they're all doing a killer job on next door.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Next door, I think on the contrary to what I just said about Kyōten, I think next door would be a great first omakase to go to because it kind of covers all your main nigiri that you're used to at a lot of other places. And you're going to get a really high level of it for not a crazy price.
Azu will suck it up for one night.
Nah, so yeah,
his wife.
my wife's Japanese, and it's very funny. So her father's a fisherman as well. So they live right on the ocean. Like literally, her parents' home is as close to the ocean as we are to across the street. In fact, her dad has fallen into the ocean just like in the dark because it's kind of rural, just walking around and just like fell into the ocean, right? But in any case, so she does not eat raw fish.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the funny part. So, and I didn't find this out until like we went out to have sushi, and she ordered chirashi and had all this like sashimi on top. And she just picked it off, and I was like, "Oh, you like to eat it separately?" And she's like, "Oh, I don't like raw fish." Yeah. And I was like, just under the operating assumption that she ate it. So she proceeded to give it to me, so I kind of shut up. But
yeah, that's funny. There's a Japanese woman who like grew up in Japan in our dining club.
Okay,
and she was like, "Oh yeah, I don't like tuna." And I was like,
"Whoa,
okay."
Yeah. In that episode with Mike, you share that your parents took you to sushi at an early age.
Yeah.
So you gained this appreciation for sushi at an early age. Did you ever get to bring your parents to Kyōten next door or Kyōten at all?
No, I did get to take my dad for Father's Day 2 years ago to Jinsei-moto.
Oh, nice.
Which I think is a very excellent omakase.
Yeah.
And I was very happy to be able to do that.
Okay.
I told him how much Kyōten costs, and he was
like, "You are not spending
his brain like short circuited."
What if you just don't tell him?
It's like, well, by the way,
he knows now. But he loves sushi. He lives in the suburbs, and he eats sushi like once a week still.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
What's his spot like?
He tells me all the time. I've actually not been there. Kaido.
Okay.
In the burbs or in the
burbs? Yeah.
Burbs?
So he lives in Wheeling, so it must be near there.
Okay.
Shout out Pauly G's. Pauly G's is out in Wheeling now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But you haven't. So you also said that you wouldn't do those like very controversial lists, like very highly debated lists either, right? Like burgers.
Yeah, I won't do burgers, pizza, hot dogs.
Wow.
I think people will.
I think there was a recent post on the Home Depot dog.
Yeah,
recently.
I saw that.
It looked good.
I feel like if I rank like burgers or pizza, people will like just send me like death threats.
Oh really?
Yeah, people get like I've seen people call each other like racial slurs over like disagreeing about burgers and pizza.
It's just food.
Yeah, I've seen some like horrible shit.
So if someone makes a burger or pizza list, you guys are fine with like allowing those to be put on to the subreddit.
If someone wants to risk their life and make a burger list.
Should I do that?
And I love burgers.
Yeah.
And I've probably eaten over 100 different burgers.
But there's so many lists
in
too.
Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's tons.
There's so many lists.
Yeah, people don't need another burger list.
So before we started recording, he's working on a Bib Gourmand list.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm trying to eat at every Bib Gourmand restaurant and then do like a top 10. I only have a couple left. So I'm excited for that. Probably next month I'll be done with it.
But even then, that's so subjective to just like taste, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I make that very clear when I make these lists. I'm like, I guarantee everyone who does what I just did would have a different list.
Yeah.
Whatever I put number one, there's going to be people that say, "Oh yeah, I went there and it sucked." Like, there's not a restaurant in Chicago that there won't be a faction of people that say, "Yeah, I went there and it sucked." Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter how good your restaurant is. There's going to be people that dislike it, and let's just part of the game when you tell like someone like me who's like talking about food all the time. You know, whatever I tell people is my favorite anything, like sometimes people are just going to say, yeah, I went there and I hated it.
Yeah.
So you're an idiot.
And you're okay with it. I mean, you have to be okay with it.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
It's all subjective. And, you know, I always try, I think like the way that we talk about food is important. And a lot of people will say, this place has the best burger. They won't say this place is my favorite burger. They'll say this is the best one. But then it's like, how do you know? You're from Naperville and you've had 3 burgers in Chicago. Like, how do you know? So I think that's like what drives me is that I want to know.
Yeah.
If I don't try them all, then I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, is there really a best anything? Not to get like too philosophical, but like it's all taste.
It's all taste. Yeah. It's all subjective. And you know, if you like, you know, a well done burger, or if you don't like smash burgers, or if you have to have a brioche bun, like you can have your own criteria, and just any rule you make is going to adjust your personal list. And I think that's kind of makes it so cool is that food is so personal.
Yeah. And then it's, for that matter too, it's like places change over time, you know, they're the way they source their buns or whatever, you know, it would be different.
I don't know if you guys know Kevin Pang and Poochie.
Yeah.
Right. I love their show on YouTube. He and his dad have this like Chinese cooking show on YouTube.
That sounds familiar.
He's also a journalist as well. But Kevin and Poochie from Wiener Circle.
Oh, cool.
But it's like a Chris Tucker, Jackie Chan dynamic. And they went to the gas station burger.
Oh, that's
place that you were telling us about.
Burger Bite.
I don't know.
Yeah,
the
one. Yeah, it's over in. It's actually right across the street from my shop.
Is that Edgewater?
Edgewater. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like on Devon and.
But I think he has his own shop now too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wait, you talking about the Burger Bite person?
I think so.
Yeah. Oh, they have a new location.
That's what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they have a new location in like Skokie. There's just a burger joint inside of a Shell gas station.
Okay.
And it's just a really good burger.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you go to Shell gas station, it's like you expect it to be kind of a crap burger, and it's actually really well done. It's like,
Okay, yeah, it sounds great. I mean, people love like El Trigon Taqueria. That's next to that gas station on Halstead and like northish.
Huh.
You said the Mexican place?
Yeah.
I went there. I was like,
Yeah.
it's decent.
So and we've been talking about a lot of fine dining, but this hasn't like swayed you from the simple joints either, right?
No. I mean, the last one I made was my French fry list.
Yeah.
So I had 200 different French fries.
Yeah,
which was
and
probably too many.
not just cheap French fries, like all types of French fries.
Anything that was a French fry. Yeah.
And that I'm just thinking like, are these sweet potato fries? Are these curly fries?
No sweet potato fries.
Oh.
Any shape was okay. It did have to be a regular potato.
Okay.
And they couldn't be loaded.
Okay.
That's a whole different thing at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Really is.
You have to draw some lines.
So while this second lineup of buyouts are happening, are you getting more like continued feedback from the team at Reddit?
No.
When
I'm done,
they kind of just wrote a blank check and like go run wild, or like did they have?
There's a contract.
There's a contract.
Yeah.
What's the contract?
The contract describes like how, the events have to go and like rules and liability, things like that. If I spend the money on something completely different, then
it was agreed upon that it was going to be a restaurant buyout.
Yeah. So I have to spend the money in exactly the way that I said I would.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I think that's something.
But there's still so much freedom in that.
Yeah. I did kind of, I got the dollar amount and I could just kind of do whatever I wanted as long as the money was going towards events where the money, like I can't put any of it in my pocket.
No.
It all has to go towards various ways of giving away food.
And what if it goes over
the dollar amount?
Yeah.
They can give you a little more if like a number changes. I haven't had that happen. Yeah. I was like pretty diligent about like getting quotes from restaurants.
So yeah, I was gonna say you just hit the restaurant. You're like, hey, here's the number.
Before they gave you the number, you had to map out the restaurants that you were planning.
Yeah. So the way I did it was I did a poll in like September, I want to say.
Yeah, there's so much planning with this.
Yeah. It's a lot of work. Where I just asked, hey, we're going to do more community events. Where would you want us to do buyouts? Okay. And I just kind of went down the list. If a restaurant costs over 10 grand to do a buyout, then they were like, you were out.
That's a high number though.
But even like the top, like 3 restaurants all were like way over that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What were people recommending?
So the top 3 vote getters were Monteverde, Bavets, and Virtue, which all
Damn.
Yeah, that's a yeah. That's
That
a
would have been
wrap.
over. Oh,
Yeah.
buyout. Like
Yeah,
I'm talking.
you have to buy up the whole
Okay,
restaurant.
for some
Yeah,
reason,
restaurant, yeah.
I have my eye on Kyōten, and it wouldn't cost. I mean, it's
No, Kyōten is just the price of 8 seats.
exactly okay,
Yeah.
but yeah, buyout.
But you're talking
like
about, like,
that,
3
Now, how many seats are in this buyout?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean.
So like across the 6 events, it ended up being 318 seats that gave away. But like Monteverde for a buyout's like 70 grand.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So like that was just like not even a world where that happens.
You can stretch the dollar at other places.
Yeah, exactly. Like yeah, so all 6 like I did, the full buyout was under 10 G's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then on top of that, we did a giveaway last Sunday. So that was February 2nd. I don't know when this is going to come out. Where we went to Red Light Chicken.
Yes.
Yeah. And
I remember
And we
that.
gave away 306 sandwiches for free. And anyone who showed up and just mentioned Reddit could get a free sandwich. So I wanted to make sure that like, so that's in addition to the 318 people that got to eat for free for like the nicer restaurants. And then on top of that, we also gave away 18 $250 gift cards to Let Us Entertain You.
Wow.
Are you also plugged into the bar scene at all? Do you drink?
Yeah.
Okay. In the cafe scene, are you like? Is it just like strictly restaurants? Like, how much do you deviate from this like central restaurant kind of thesis?
yeah,
Is it, like cafes, bars. Like, what
That's
do you?
true.
I like pastries. Obviously, I don't drink coffee, so I'm not like super in touch with the cafe scene.
Sure.
I do like to drink. I would say, but like probably my favorite thing to drink is sake.
Okay, cool.
But then after that, probably beer and
Do you know Dila? Dila Lee? We know
no.
Dila.
I don't know
Dila.
Dila.
She's the sake queen. We got to
Yeah,
hook
she's
you up
the
with
sake queen in
Dila.
Chicago,
Okay,
so
yeah,
yeah.
that'd
She
be sick.
curated sake drinks at my wedding. She
Oh,
could do.
really?
She could do it for you.
Okay.
Yeah. She's very
There will
knowledgeable.
be sake at my wedding.
She had Noble Arrow at our wedding.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I love the guys at Konbini and Kenpai.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love what they're
Junjun,
doing.
yeah.
Yeah, Junjun's the man. I really love that guy.
Oh damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could have done like just the basement parlor of Bavets. I don't know. It's like, does it always have to be a whole buyout?
It doesn't have to be, but it makes it a lot easier when the restaurant knows that everyone that's showing up is for the event.
Okay.
And people like don't want to mention Reddit in public.
Really?
Yeah, people are embarrassed to be
Really,
like,
even in Chicago?
Yeah, yeah.
Just
yeah.
like, yeah.
People are, oh, this is for the Reddit thing.
Is there
Actually.
any part of you that wants to kind of change that culture?
I don't think I can. I think
Yeah.
I think
It's like,
people.
it is what it is.
Yeah,
It is what it is. It's like, yeah, it's its own thing.
I just like I don't care. You know, I don't
Yeah.
mind.
Well-
And even like people like for me, it's been crazy. It's like gotten to the point where people recognize me sometimes, like if I go out to eat.
Yeah.
And then everyone, it's like just like announced, like, "Hey, you're the Reddit guy," and that's kind of weird.
I mean, it's kind of like, in a way, it's like card collecting. It's like anime. It's like you are not cool until all of a sudden the like kind of normie mainstream people decide that they want to do something that's in their own benefit, and now all of a sudden it's
Well, these
cool.
buyouts are making it mainstream.
Yeah, I think people that know like about the Chicago food subreddit like think it's cool. I mean, some people think it's horrible. I mean, there have been like negative
Yeah.
things that have happened on the subreddit.
Yeah.
And that's had damage, unfortunately.
Like someone makes a burger list and then gets shot.
Oh
you know,
no.
like-
no, but
Oh no.
but I mean, there is like a real impact when someone posts a negative review.
Sure.
Because we're right now we're averaging about 4 million monthly views
Okay.
on the subreddit, and so a lot of if you post a negative review, a lot of people might see it, and then if the negative review includes something crazy, then that's more likely that people are going to upvote it, and then a lot of people will see it.
Are you likely to remove those, or do you just kind of let them chill?
So we've had to like really like hone in on our stance on negative criticism. So we can't take the stance that we won't allow negative criticism. Let's
Right.
just
That's
Freedom of speech.
it's
important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people should be allowed to say when something bad happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't the comments like or the community kind of like confirm or deny whether like the merit of the negative review?
Sometimes, but other times there's like an echo chamber where if the community has already like pre-decided that the restaurant is bad,
Yeah.
then even if they make some positive change, then the community, you've already like been
done the damage.
Yeah, you've already been executed in the court of public opinion, and there's not a whole. It's really hard to dig out of that, which is an unfortunate part of the community where you'll have people shitting on a restaurant that they've never eaten at, which I think is very unfair. So you can't just say like, I went here and it sucked, don't go here.
Yeah.
Like that'll get removed. But you can say like, I went to this place and the burger was dry and the server was rude and I ordered this and they gave me something else.
Yeah.
So if you can substantiate why you didn't like it, then we'll allow it. On a personal level, I don't write negative reviews just because I feel like I have too much empathy for like how difficult it is to run a restaurant and work in a restaurant. If you're hurting the restaurant, but you're actually like hurting the livelihoods.
Right.
So, like, my feeling is, if a restaurant is bad, people aren't gonna say it's good, and then it'll just die naturally.
Yeah.
Usually, not always. There are some places that have somehow managed to overcome having bad food.
Yeah.
But for the most part, if a place is really good, then those I want to use my platform to support those restaurants and encourage people to go there. And just be a place to reward good.
There's got to be some merit to posting within Reddit rather than on the restaurant's Yelp page too.
Yeah,
there's nothing gaining from that. It's just providing feedback to the community.
Also, Yelp has a kind of maybe a reputation, or at least people don't necessarily think that it's always what you see is what you get with Yelp.
Yeah, you can pay to have a negative Yelp review removed.
Yeah, and I've had them approach me a lot of times like, hey, do you want to claim your page? And I'm like, no, I don't want to claim my page, actually. Like,
because you'd have to pay for it, or
no, because it's more so like, I know that's how you get your foot in the door with me, and you start asking me like, oh, if you can pay to get this done and pay for that. I'm like, no thanks. I'd rather just keep it unclaimed. I don't really care. Like, people are gonna say what they say. It is what it is. Like,
yeah, it's so interesting that, like, I guess I'm still caught up on like the high level team of like Reddit and like the lack of direction that they've provided, unless they've provided some level of goals to you of like, in 5 years or 2 years, this is what we'd like Reddit to be, and like you are instrumental in helping shape that.
No, they've provided
that's
absolutely
so wild.
Nothing. Yeah, well, cause no one, like, I think people kind of take for granted like that. Chicago Food is really the only food subreddit that is this engaged with the community.
Top 2%.
Yeah, and like there are big food cities in America that don't have, like, you need someone to actually step up and do all the stuff that is required to maintain a community. So like there's a DC food subreddit with like 4,000 subscribers, and like the last time I looked, no one had posted in 3 weeks. So you really need to have someone who
stoke the fire.
Yeah. So it's not something that's just there. I think a lot of people might think that if I wasn't doing what I'm doing, that someone else would, and it would just exist. But we have data that shows for 10 years no one did it.
No one did it.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't a thing.
And it's the second largest Chicago specific subreddit, right? Like, isn't just the Chicago, like r/Chicago, the only one that has more?
That probably is true. I don't know that for sure, but
I think it might be the case.
I think it probably is. Yeah.
I'm on like that one.
I feel like
Chicago,
that has like
and then
half a million
Chicago
people.
Food.
Yeah. But that's crazy, like, to be the second largest, like, in a major city. In America.
And I like, for me, since no one else is doing it, I can't really look to anyone else for like how to do this. But I just try to find as many cool ways as I can to, engage the community. Like, we do a lot of AMAs where we had a lot of like big figures in the food scene come on and answer questions all day, which is super cool.
Big figures like hospitality professionals?
Yeah, like people, like usually it'll be someone that works in a restaurant or maybe a food writer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the questions that are asked in these AMAs are really good, actually.
Yeah, every time, they're like, the people are worried that like people on Reddit are going to be like really mean. And they often are, but never in the AMAs. Like, I've never had any of them where someone was like super like aggressive or confrontational in the AMAs. Even we've had controversial figures on there where I kind of anticipated it, but everyone's really respectful.
Is there any part of you that wants to transition this to more like a visual or video based platform like Instagram? So let's say if you were to do an AMA, but like have it on Instagram Live.
Oh, yeah. No, just because I don't have a platform on Instagram.
Yeah, it doesn't translate. You know,
Yeah.
there are people who are big on Instagram. You go to YouTube and they just don't have an audience. It's you know.
Yeah, Reddit's the only place where I have like a big platform. So that for me is the best place for me to do these things.
I don't know. Talk to a ramen lord.
You know, speaking of AMA, I actually have a couple questions. Like, I'm just curious about this. Like,
Sure.
you know, as the moderator, you get to see kind of everything that goes through the subreddit.
Yeah.
Like, what are some of the questions that you feel, or some of the kind of posts that you feel like, oh man, I want more posts like this, like these high quality posts? And then what are some of the posts where you see them and you're just like, I wish people just wouldn't post this kind of stuff anymore?
Yeah. I would say like more posts talking like where people talk about restaurants that are different than the same like 20 restaurants that get recommended constantly.
Bavets.
Red Hot Ranch. Like those are like huge, like Monteverde.
Yeah.
But then there's always like that. If a place is really hyped, like Bavets or Monteverde or Akahoshi Ramen, there's always going to be people when you make that post. There's going to be comments. Oh, I went there. It's overrated. But to me, it's like some people will make entire posts where they're like, yeah, I went to the restaurant and the food was really good and the service was really good. Wouldn't go back. Overrated. It's like, why did you take time out of your day to shit on a restaurant who executed on service and food?
They did everything right.
Yeah, like because you created this idea in your head it was going to be the best meal you've ever had, and then it wasn't.
Yeah.
But they did everything they were supposed to do as a restaurant, and then now you're writing a negative review. So like for those types of reasons, I have tremendous empathy for the people that work in these restaurants, because there's no winning. So you're either that famous and popular and loved, or you're not, and then it's like a huge uphill battle just trying to stay afloat.
Yeah. That reminds me of like how long the tenure for like Alinea, you know, has had to maintain those 3 stars. It's wild.
Yeah.
But like if you saved up all this money to be able to experience Alinea, you're probably going to have some high expectation.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
And hopefully they meet, you know, or if not exceed. But
yeah, I mean, it's like it's such a moving target, you know, because you can find that one menu where it like hits all the notes that you're kind of expecting, but then you might have just caught the chef when they're like, oh, I just feel like abbreviating things, or I just feel like making this kind of switch, and now all of a sudden you have this like big discrepancy of experience for people who told you like, oh, this is the best thing since sliced bread, and you go there and you're like,
we had that in our dining club with Oriole, which is, I think that's the best restaurant in Chicago, just in terms of like, if money is no object and you just want like some crazy high quality fine dining experience, that's like, for me, that's the best.
I think that's pretty agreed upon in the subreddit.
Well, but so because of that, my dining club bought out Oriole's private dining room, and it was like the worst meal they've ever had.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I know that at the time that they went, Chef Noah wasn't at the restaurant. He was somewhere else. I wasn't there. I don't know exactly, but like every dish, there was something wrong with it. The service was bad. Like it was like some weird, like comically bad meal.
Yeah.
And most of those people are like, I'm not giving them another $1 ever again because I had such a bad experience. So
do you feel some level of responsibility to even like connect with chef about that, or not really? Like, is that out of your hands?
Not really. Like, what am I gonna? Like,
at that point, it seems like you're almost asking for favors, and it's like,
I never ask for anything.
Yeah, you got to just say, hey, like
or
give
just
them enough
make it
notice,
clear, I don't want anything, but this is what happened.
But that can seem like an ass too.
Yeah,
like,
without like, is there a way to do that? Is there a way to do that without coming off like an asshole? I don't know.
I think there probably is. I think the time for that is probably past,
right?
Because it was a while ago.
Yeah, it should have been immediate. Then.
Yeah. But I feel bad that they spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
And had this horrible experience. And like I think I don't know this for sure, but I think like some people that went might have gone because I said, I think this is the best restaurant in Chicago.
Yeah.
And then they hated it and they had this profoundly negative experience.
Yeah. That's a lot of.
I think like when you're at a place like Oriole, I think there is some responsibility for them to recognize when guests are having a really bad time and to do something about it. Yeah. So I think that was a hospitality failure on their part. I don't know why. It doesn't it doesn't mar how good my meal at Oriole was.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunate.
Things just happen like that. So I mean, working at Fine Dine, I remember there was just one night where everyone just broke a glass. Like just everyone was just dropping glasses. Like it was the weirdest experience ever. And then the GM drops an entire tray of glasses at the end of the night and gets sent home by the chef.
Oh.
The GM. And this never happens.
Yeah.
It is just like one of those weird things where it got so bad that the guests were all clapping for us every time a glass broke, and we were just like, oh my God, what the fuck is going on? It was just one of those nights. Yeah, like they just had one of those nights. We were cursed.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that's, illustrative of the, like, your single experience at a restaurant is not, objective.
Yeah, that's not the universe in which that restaurant solely occupies. It's things happen and there's so many moving parts, and they're already like kind of dancing on this fine line, especially if they're really ambitious.
Yeah, I mean, even on one night, every table could have a completely different experience at the same restaurant.
It's like like universes within universes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, is there anything else that you would like to do with this community fund? Now that you've dabbled with the funds, do you start seeing like additional opportunities to foster this community?
Well, it's interesting because I'm not allowed, currently the way the fund is set up, I can't do the same kind of event twice.
Oh.
So they determined that me doing a series of events
is different
than one event.
Okay.
But next year, I can't do either of those things because I've already used those up. So I have to come up with some creative new way to spend their money, which I will. I'm going to take every dollar they give me if they keep doing it. Yeah. So I really, I have a couple ideas of different ways that I could use it.
Are you going to poll the group as well?
Yeah. If anyone has any great ideas, I would love to hear them.
I mean, you were going down the pathway of cocktails too, right? Earlier.
In terms of what?
In terms of fostering this community, like more buyouts per se,
Right.
Not necessarily restaurants.
I can't use any of the money for alcohol.
So not solely alcohol? Because I mean, at these dinner buyouts, is there no wine or anything?
No. So and this is something I even had to argue with Reddit when I did the first one, is just to allow the sale of alcohol.
Oh.
Yeah, that was their first draft, was them saying like, no, you cannot sell alcohol at any event.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then I had to fight with their lawyers.
I see.
Yeah.
So it'd be a harder win if it was a cocktail bar.
Yeah, there's no way.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe
Can you imagine like a caviar cocktail bar?
I know. Yeah. And maybe I've earned enough goodwill at this point where I could maybe pull off something like that.
Yeah.
But that'd be a tough sell for sure.
That's interesting. I wonder if what if you threw just a gala with vendors there, and then people within the community can come meet these, like it's a tabling event.
It sounds like you're slowly convincing him to spin off into a food fest, basically.
I mean,
I mean, hey, it's whatever.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah,
you're already doing a lot of work.
Yeah, that's even more work.
That's a lot of work. Yeah.
I'm not opposed to it, but there's definitely a limit to how much free labor I'm willing to put into these things.
I'd be willing to help.
I appreciate that.
I think there are other people that are willing to help, and I think there are people with resources that can connect the dots with you.
Yeah, I'm definitely open to it. Like if I can see a plan that makes sense, I would definitely do it.
Okay. We'll be in touch.
Yeah, for sure.
Victor's the deal maker now. He's
but like I said earlier, I've had one happy hour event with Go Wang from ESQ, a gentleman that made my wedding tuxedo, and he hosted a happy hour for podcast guests, and there were about maybe 20-ish, 24 people that showed up. So these are people that were previously on the podcast. And I think everyone in the room had such a good time, finally putting a face or the opportunity to meet each other in person. They've seen clips of each other on social media. And I would love to do something similar as in a dinner capacity or a tabling type event. But what I can't get over is how many people is ideal. I previously asked you what is, and I've asked previous guests too, what's an ideal number of guests for an effective dinner. So it's like 8 to 10. 10 is probably capping it, but like 8-ish people where you can get meaningful dialogue with each person at that table. But then what if it wasn't a dinner event? What if it was a tabling event? And then do you make it public? Do you just make it restricted to people that have been on the podcast? Like, there's a lot of things floating in my head, and then that I'm in my own way of like, how do I execute that? Because I don't make any money. So where's this money coming from? So you have this source of money, and your constraint is like, I can't do the same thing that I did previously. So you're in a very great opportunistic spot.
Yeah, definitely.
All you guys have to do is just do the event that the other person did last time. It's just guess the hardest part is sometimes just coming on what to do. You're just like sitting there like, okay, I can't do this. So,
I guess I'm trying to think of like, what do I want people to get out of this? And so like, what would you want this the Chicago food community to get out of it? Whether it's meeting each other, whether it's continuing to grow this deep appreciation for the food and hospitality scene in Chicago. And then when you realize what you want them to get out of it, through what vessel? Is it through a food fest? Is it through a restaurant buyout? Like, it could be so limitless.
Right. I think like what I really want people to get out of these events is just, I participated in this community, and from there I had this really amazing, meaningful experience that hopefully I'll remember for a long time, and was a source of light in their lives. So if I can accomplish that, then I'll do whatever. The previous ways that I've done that has been the way that makes the most sense to me to accomplish that. But I know there's tons of ways to be creative, especially like restaurants. If you dangle money in front of their face, they're going to come up with some great pitch for why you should spend your money there.
Yeah. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you got to be somewhere.
Yeah.
Justin. Do we have any last minute questions?
So it's just funny kind of thinking like, because I see you in the restaurant space, and I operate in mostly like kind of the coffee world, and I see a lot of these cafes popping up with just like really inventive like pairings and desserts and stuff like that. So I know we haven't really touched upon that at all. I asked you a question earlier about like cafes. Have you had an experience, like a chance to go to like, Loba Pastry or any, places that are doing like very like elevated like food, coffee aside, like, because that's where my interest is a lot too. Well, there was definitely a trend with like breakfast sandwiches, like Kasama, breakfast sandwich,
exactly,
Cafe,
Chubby Boys,
my buddy Junho, he runs this Korean pop-up.
That's your buddy?
Yeah,
Junho's coming on soon. Are you kidding
really?
me?
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh no!
Wait, I'm going to someplace tomorrow. I'm meeting him tomorrow.
Oh really?
Get out of here!
No, I love Junho. I just saw
from Haru Haru.
Yeah. So when I told you about Yao Yao earlier, I went with him.
Wow.
You guys probably already know so many people.
I'm
like
sure.
A lot of overlap just there.
I'm sorry, I cut you off. So go ahead.
No, I was gonna plug his breakfast sandwich thing that he does with Chubby Boys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but like, I mean, people are like lining up for that.
Yeah,
and they seem to love it.
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, those like breakfast sandwiches, that's like a trend right now with like that like smooth one color egg.
Yeah, it's maybe that's going to be the new burger list, like the breakfast sandwich list, where you can stand over that.
Lardone is good. I thought about Lardone the other day because David Moore from Truce came on, which is across the street from Lardone. I mean, that's all we had, man. So you're welcome back anytime. I don't know if you ever feel like you wanted to host a podcast, but like I said in the very beginning of your episode, like if you feel like you want this space to have an hour and a half dialogue with someone, the floor is yours.
That's very generous of you. I really appreciate it. I might take you up on that. It's something I've thought about. So I'd be happy to co-host with other food people in the future if you wanted to.
Yeah, anytime.
I love how Victor's paying you forward too, because like Francis did that for you.
Yeah.
And now you're doing it for other people.
Yeah. I don't know if you met Francis Almeida.
I haven't met him.
From Side Practice, but the Almeida universe. I feel like he's an incubator for a lot of side practices, and then I pay attention to that, and then I'm like, oh, want to come on the podcast? And
he just offered his cafe to Victor. Just
so
to
after
do his
at the
podcast,
end of his episode, he offered his space, his coffee shop, and so he gave me the keys to side practice.
Yeah.
And I had 2 episodes. I had Dila Lee, the sake queen, as well as Derek Tung from Polly G's.
Yeah, I was there on that one with
yeah,
Dila.
with Dila. Yeah. Yeah, if you ever like, I'm sure you've met Dila because Dila's at Konbini a lot as well.
I think I did meet her at a tasting for Kambara sake one time.
Yeah, I'm sure. So till next time. And thanks for coming on. Where where can people find you if people want to find you?
I mean, obviously,
I'm guessing Reddit.
Chicago Food subreddit.
Yeah.
I'm on Instagram. I usually post the restaurants I'm eating at.
Okay.
Just my name, Mitch Gropman.
Okay.
Or videos of him shredding. Like,
oh yeah,
he's really good on the guitar.
Thank you.
Yeah. I was like, oh snap! Like,
I used to think I was going to be a famous rock star.
I mean, you got the chops. Like technically. I'm not a musician, but I was like, I like this.
I was playing guitar right before I came here, so
that's awesome. Yeah, keep that up.
That's okay. Well, I guess the side tangent. It's like that's so interesting that I would think that Reddit is your like hobby, despite it feeling like work. But you still make time for additional hobbies. When people ask like, what do I do in my free time? This is my free time.
Yeah,
and it feels like work. So I don't have time to do anything else.
Yeah, I'm like I said, because of my job, I'm very fortunate. I have lots of hobbies that I do almost every day.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Go give Mitch a follow. You can give Mitch a follow in Reddit. Do you follow each other on Reddit?
You can follow someone on Reddit, but I've never followed someone on Reddit
all good.
before.
You'll see Mitch bopping around in Reddit, in the Chicago Foods subreddit. All right. Till next time. See ya. Hey, what's up guys? Thanks for tuning in. If you like this video, you might even like this video. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe right here. I'll see you in the next one.